season.
Prince Albert of Monaco is a big bobsled enthusiast and a competitor, and he's raised the interest level and the level of awareness in his country of this sport.
Well, it just tells you about bobsledding and skeleton. There's so many countries that compete in these sports. It's awesome to see countries like Brazil, Monaco, Netherlands. You know, usually the winter sports is just dominated by Switzerland, Austria, Germany. Here it's North Americans. The Canadians and the U.S. have a big presence also. You see him duck his head there for aerodynamics at the finish. A lot of teams will do that.
Latvia 2 now at the start. Gatis Guts is the driver, currently in 13th place. He's gotten up close and personal with this track in the past.
A little face plant for him and his teammates on Tuesday, the first day of training. I think they're still a little beat up because they have no type of start time, or they have a 6th, a 5th, and 5th best at the start in the first 3 heats, but he hasn't been driving at all. Finished 5th last week at a two-man, one of his best finishes ever in anything, and he expected to do much better than this, and he loves this track.
Latvia expects some results today, but this is not the man expected to deliver them. Sandis Prusis will be up later, and Latvia's medal hopes rest squarely on his shoulders.
I mentioned yesterday the strength of Latvian bobsledding in Latvia. They don't have winter sports success. No biathletes, ski jumpers, alpine skiers. This is the sport of choice for winter athletes in Latvia, and they have a 60% television audience draw when bobsledding's on, and all the events are live from Latvian TV. So these guys are almost like little national heroes in their small little country.
You talk about the speed all the time, John. He's just off the pace set by the Netherlands earlier.
But he's got a lot of time in the bank, big lead in the Netherlands going into this, and it looks like he's got a very clean ride at the moment. Good speed. We saw it a shady, perfect to the chicane. That little nudge there might cost him, but he's got a lot of time, and this will be the leader. But there's the looking on. You see the Monegasque. They know that they're toast here. Gatis Guts going to be the leader. 2600 doesn't sound like much, but it is.
In this sport, that is a lot of time. 55.68, the time on the final run. They can't wait to get out of that sled. You're right, they may be banged up, John. So Latvia in the lead with still plenty more sleds to go. We're going to take a look at the standings at this point. Actually, a replay first. As you can see, great form through the early part of the track.
Well, he's in Devil's Highway, and this is where it really stretches the imaginations of the athletes.
Guts in the lead. We'll be back right after this.
Museum, it's the Olympic Hall of Fame down there. There's the 32 Olympic Games gold medal sled driven by the Stevens brothers. There's Joe Bakken's gold medal sled from last year's Winter Olympic Games. There's a German design sled from the 30s. It's all there. If you ever get a chance to go to Lake Placid, you got to stop by the Olympic Museum and also take a chance and take a ride on this Olympic bobsled track.
Well, the sleds have changed just a little bit over the years, huh?
There's been a little change in the technology and then also in the athleticism.
Yeah. Now the team from the Czech Republic, the driver Ivo Danilovic, Jan Kosak, Roman Gomola, and Jan Kobian in the sled with him. Danilovic turns 33 in April. His best World Cup finish in 9th in St. Moritz just last month. Is this one of the teams that's coming on right now?
He's been on the World Cup circuit for 3 or 4 years. Decent start, 5:07. 5 flat or below is optimum start times. Big men, here's the comparison. Who gets in first? Pretty much the same. You know, big guys, big skid there too. Big guys, but bigger you are, the lighter the sled that you push, but then you got to drive. Ivo hasn't really had some great results driving yet. He's improved a little bit each year, but after 4 or 5 years, if you don't start cracking top 5, top 7s, you might want to start thinking about finding a new life.
There is a maximum amount the sled can weigh with the 4 guys inside.
Well, we saw that last week when the Swiss team was disqualified for being overweight. This is a gravity sport, and the Latvians here are looking to move up on the Czechs. It's going to be close.
Danilovic and his team in the lead. 800ths of a second, 55.75, the time in run number 4, the 4th best time of that heat, but enough to keep him in first place. Good crowds on hand today, despite the fact that the weather is not ideal as the skies have opened up and it's raining right now pretty heavily.
Not as bad as it was. You can see the drops coming down, and just look at the driver's eyes here. You see, they have all that solution on their face mask to make sure that they can at least have a chance to see. A lot of instinct here, though.
Lots of support from the people who've come out today.
Well, I said the rain wasn't bad on the bottom part of the track. Up here at the start, you can see it's coming down a little heavy.
The Italian sled driven by Fabrizio Tossini. You saw the 2006 logo. Torino, Italy will be hosting the Olympic Games in 3 years. Do we expect some improvement from this team as the Olympics approach?
A lot of new guys in their driver schools on the circuit in the Americas and Europa Cup, and especially in skeleton and women's bob, and they expect to do a lot. I mean, you know, the Italians are one of those marquee nations in the sport of bobsledding, and luge, they used to dominate. Now they've lost all sorts of chance in the luge. Look at this, there's a push bar out. This is very dangerous. Anybody on the side of the track standing on the walls, I hope everybody gets back. I'm sure the announcements are being made over the track. This is faulty equipment, and if this thing catches, it could cause havoc on the sled. I mean, those things are very rigid, very strong, and this is a very dangerous situation. The driver, of course, doesn't know it's out. Well,
he's losing time, too.
Yeah, well, it's not an aerodynamic element. I'm sure it's worth 6, 8, 10 hundredths on the way down, and the Czechs see this as an opportunity for them to move up. And this Italian, when he sees what's happened to his sled, is not going to like it. Lost. He came back a little bit.
Yeah, made up a little time at the bottom of the track, but the 5th best run in that 4th heat, and that certainly, that push bar being out certainly hurt him there.
Distraction.
So the Czech Republic remains in the lead.
Well, this is a technical problem here that, boy, you go back to the drawing board. What happened? Why this thing didn't come down?
Plenty more sleds to come from Mount Van Hovenberg in Lake Placid. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Chips are being brought to you by Verizon, proud sponsor of the U.S. bobsled and skeleton teams. The next sled, USA 2, driven by Stephen Holcomb. For years, American sladders were using second-hand sleds from Europe, but over 10 years ago, Winston Cup driver Jeff Bodine got involved, and everything changed. Bobsledding is fast and furious, much like another sport. Race cars and bobsleds go hand in hand. In fact, bobsleds have been called glorified race cars with no engines. So it was no surprise that Winston Cup veteran Jeff Bodine fell in love with the sport of bobsledding. Bodine knows all about speed and all about winning. He won the 1985 Daytona 500, plus close to 20 other races in his career. After watching the '92 Olympics on TV, Bodine felt it was time to take some pride in America and help the underfunded USA bobsled program.
You know, I knew that Europeans weren't selling our guys and girls the best stuff. And so, and plus I thought American athletes representing the United States of America in the Olympics should be using American-made equipment.
The U.S. team enjoyed immediate success with its new Bodine sled.
This is the biggest victory for the United States in World Cup competition ever.
The Bodine project culminated at last year's Winter Olympics when the U.S. won 2 medals in the 4-man. After 10 years of hard work, Jeff Bodine's efforts were right on track.
I think I've been proud of it since the day we started it. I'm very excited that we've gotten to this level, but we've been proud since day one.
Just like any race team, without a fast car, a fast vehicle, you're certainly not going to go fast. So they're just a crucial part of the team, and definitely without them, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Back to the top for USA 2. Stephen Holcomb, just 22 years old, out of Park City, Utah. He's joined in the sled by Ivan Radcliffe of Houston, Doug Sharp of Louisville, and Will Person, born in St. Louis.
Can't tell you how well this kid's done. He gets to the bottom. Any result is awesome. Another great start time. He's at the 8th best start time in all 3 heats. And I can't believe he's in this top 10 position. First major event ever. He's in the Junior World Championships 3 weeks ago, finished 6th. And he's one of the youngest. He is the youngest pilot in the field.
Tied coming into this final run with the Austrian sled. So this is definitely going to be a top 10 finish unless something drastic happens.
Well, he's got 1,700s lead, now to a 2,000s lead on the bottom, so that's great for maintaining his position, but there's a lot of sleds coming behind him.
You figure the top U.S. driver, Todd Hayes, is in his early 30s. Over the next 10 years, imagine how much this guy can accomplish.
Yeah, he's very laid-back individual, great eye-hand coordination, great athlete, which is the most important element.
And the Czechs know that they're finished, John.
Yeah, and Holcomb. Congratulations to Steve Holcomb and his team. This is one of the best finishes I've ever seen by a young U.S. bobsledder in 25, 30 years.
U.S. coach Tuffy Latour knows that that is an outstanding performance over the past 2 days by Holcomb.
I don't think he understands what he just accomplished.
On paper, when you see a top 10, it might not mean much, but just the experience that he gained and how much he was able to do this weekend is great, and great speed.
Yeah, and Tuffy Latour knows he's got a great project to work with. Brian Scheimer in the background.
You happy with this heat? Yeah, it was much better. Finally got some things right. About time, you know.
Finally. Seems like he's been getting things right for a while.
Yeah, USA's had a good performance out of both their number 2 pilots. Last week, Mike Kahn. This week, Steve Holcomb.
Now Austria won, the team that was tied with Holcomb in 9th position coming into this final run. The driver, Wolfgang Stampfer, he's joined by Andreas Poehler, Klaus Silos, and Eugenio Balanc. Austria hasn't won a medal at the World Championship since '95. That's got to be a bit disappointing for that program.
Well, with that track at Innsbruck, their program's been on the slide for a number of years. There's their coach yelling at him to get a better start time. The 11th, and 7th best start time, so their starts improved, but he's in a dead heat with Holcomb. So right here, I'll tell you, he's got 200s in the bank on Steve Holcomb right now at the bottom. And he's got all the experience. I mean, this shouldn't even be a race. He's got big speed, so look at that speed. This last thing on Wolfgang Stampfer's mind is have the rookie pilot at the bottom, Steve Holcomb, beat him. And he's sliding for pride right now, and a chance to move up 2 or 3 places. -2 to -4.
He isn't adding much to his lead with all that speed.
It's going to be pretty close. Only a mistake down here will prevent him from being our leader, but it's going to be within a finger length.
The U.S. team eagerly anticipating this last time. He gained a lot of time at the bottom of the track, John.
Yeah, Gerhard Rayner, the coach, is fine. We beat those Americans.
Still plenty more sleds ahead. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Because they won the World Cup title, which gives them that 3 sleds in there. It's that incentive. And otherwise, every other country can only allow to have 2 sleds in the field. So it's this Germany 3 sleds taking advantage of it. He's in his first World Championships ever. We're probably going to see a lot of him. But as you said, there's 5, 6 more Germans behind him.
There was another German sled that won an event on the World Cup circuit this year.
Yeah, Feisthoff and LaPlan. He just won the Junior World Championships. That'll be a name we'll be hearing from for many years.
A comfortable lead over the Austrian sled, over a half second at that last split.
A little inconsistent at the start. He had a 14th place start time in the 3rd heat. Much better than the other 3 heats. Half-second lead, that's an eternity of time. 100th of a second is equal to one of your fingernails. So give you an idea how this sport is clocked.
Through the heart, through the finish curve, the final time 55:35 in heat number 4. That's the best run so far in this heat, and a comfortable lead, comfortably in first place, Germany 3. The fans out here are cheering on everyone, John. They don't care what flag you have on the front of your sled. If you're going to sit out here in the rain, I guess, you might as well be loud. Back to the top, Switzerland won. Ivo Rug is the driver, joined by Daniel Mockler, Stefan Baumert, and Christian Albi, or Abley, I should say. Rug comes from a long line of bobsledders in his family.
Well, there's 3 different Rugs competing on the World Cup circuit, all cousins. A 4th is about to come out, they say, next year. And their fathers I competed against in the late 70s, and their fathers won silver medals with Eric Scher at the 80 Olympic Games in Lake Placid. So rich tradition of bobsledding in its sense in St. Moritz, but this tells you how much of a passion that this family has for the sport.
This is the only Swiss sled in the competition.
Now the Swiss have had a few internal problems amongst the teams and the athletes this year. They didn't win a medal in the two-man. Their top sled got disqualified for being overweight. And this is the only sled left, and looks like they're going to be the leaders. It's going to be close, but they should have enough time in the bank here to be the leader.
The sport that, or the country that invented this sport, I'm sure this is quite disappointing that they don't have anyone near the medals in this weekend.
7th place, the best he can do.
The battle for the bronze is still ahead. Back to Lake Placid in a moment. 2003 Bobsled World Championships. This is the sled from France, driven by Bruno Minjean, and this guy has a few medals in under his belt.
Well, gold medalist at the 99 World Championships in Cortina, bronze medal at the Nagano Winter Olympic Games, and a couple medals this year on the circuits. Won a couple events in La Plaine, France in previous years, but his nemesis is the start time. 10th best start in the first 3 heats. That's pretty tough to have that type of deficiency at the first 50 meters. You have to be perfect down here, and that's not perfect. That little corner up there has caused a lot of problems. And when you're running at a slow speed, you can't make mistakes like that.
Will the weather make the track that much different from day to day?
Well, sometimes when it rains like this on this track, it adds a little bit of a moisture on it and a hydroplane effect, less friction to the eye. Depending on how much moisture, they have a chance to go faster. You can see it's still coming down pretty hard.
4/100ths of a lead at that last split.
The Swiss are looking on like they're toast themselves. Minjean is pretty tough to catch when the sled's flying. There it is, looking, went from -4 to -17. Give him about 200 more meters, he might be the gold medalist.
You said it time and time again, John, this guy is good towards the bottom of the track, and he's one of the rare guys who can actually make up time as he goes down.
Might be his last race. Could retire, he's 40 years old.
Germany 2 now. Rennie Spies, Franz Sagmeister, Enrico Kuhn, and Jens Noka.
Yeah, this is what bobsledders do. They do the little simulation patterns. They feel out where they are in the course.
Celebrating their victory celebration as well.
Well, he had won 3 events on the two-man circuit, challenge for the World Cup title. 4-man just is not as dominant. He's got 2 or 3 medals in the World Cup circuit in 4-man, but he's not the domination in this 4-man sled like he is in the 2-man.
To tell you how big some of the other athletes have to be in these sleds, one of the guys, Sagmeister's nickname is the Beast.
He's about 6'3", 240, and is he ever caught?
Time of France 1 is there, but they're not going to challenge if Spies continues to move down the track this way. He's got a huge lead right now.
Spies has got a bad toe. He's got some bad ribs from last week's 2-man competition, and he's about 20 seconds away from his season being finished, and I'm sure he's thrilled because he's pretty banged up. Easily going to be our leader. The French know it as they wave goodbye. Rennie Spies of Winterberg, Germany, will be our leader, but won't last.
Still plenty more sleds to go, but Spies right now has put himself in the top spot with only 4 sleds to go. Back with more from Lake Placid in a moment. Latvia 1, driven by Sandis Prūsis. He had a great year, 4 medals on the World Cup circuit in the 4-man, including 2 gold. He was second in the overall World Cup standings and really likes this track. He won gold at the Winter Goodwill Games, the first event on this track back in the winter of 2000.
And that was in a 2-man competition where the track wasn't very mature. It was all about driving, not even start times. But Prūsis needs to hit a home run here. He cannot have any mistakes. He's not worried about beating Spies as much as just putting the perfect time down, getting to the bottom in hopes that the Russians will come behind him make a mistake. It's the only chance he's got.
But he's losing time to Spies right now.
Well, that's related to the lesser start time. Spies had a 4th best start. Prūsis was a couple hundreds behind that. Now he's got it back to -1, +2 to -1, and that's a good sign for the Latvians, but he's going to have to be perfect down here in the speed part of the course, the chicane out of Benham's Bend right here.
You can really see the rain in that shot.
-1, So he was -1 to -1. That might tell you that he might be giving some time back. It's going to be right to the fingernail who's going to have a chance to win a medal here.
And whoever's leading here has a chance at the bronze.
Look at the disgust on the Latvian coaches. They know the medal chances are gone for this season, and maybe forever for Sandis Preußis. This could be his last race.
So Latvia moves into second, Germany 2, Rennie Spies in first, and the Russians are at the top of the hill. Spies still has a chance at a bronze medal here. And as you've said, John, this is the big surprise. Alexander Zubkov, and Russia won.
Yeah, you think this guy would be in 6th, 7th place, but he had the best start in the first heat, the second best start in the second and third heats. So you got start times, you could challenge. Russian military, all 4 of these athletes, young, average age about 25, tall, lanky, and every year you see them, they seem to be getting a little more big, is the expression.
The Soviets won a medal in the 4-man at the '88 Olympics in Calgary, but since then, nothing.
Well, that's when it was the Soviet Union, which was made up mostly of Latvians. Now it's Russian, and the Russians have never won a medal in bobsledding since the fall of the Iron Curtain. This is a history-making potential moment right here.
1600ths lead at that first split, down to 14.
And he's bleeding the time. Next clock, he's got to hope he's at 11 or 12. If he gets down to single digits, he could be throwing it away. There's 13. He's still bleeding time. This will be a huge celebration at the bottom by the Russian coaches at the top. This means so much to their program. -12. The bleeding. This is going to be close. The Germans are looking on. This is for a medal. It's Germany or Russia. Historic moment for Russia if they hang on. They do. Wow.
Well, you can see the elation in the coaching staff. Clearly, you can tell what this medal means to this program.
This is huge. These athletes are ecstatic. They have toiled for a long time.
Zubkov didn't seem exceptionally pleased with any of his runs. He always had to wait until he checked out the clock before he realized that he was in the lead, but he was in that 3rd position the entire weekend.
Look at the celebration here. They deserve every moment.
Final 2 sleds still to come. By Verizon, proud sponsor of the U.S. bobsled and skeleton teams. The U.S. hasn't won a gold at the World Championship since 1959. Let's meet one of the guys who was in that sled 44 years ago.
I've been all over the world. I was in the military for 20 years. I've raced all over the world. I wouldn't live anywhere else.
Gary Sheffield was on 2 Olympic bobsled teams in 1964 and 1968. He also coached the 1980 U.S. team. But perhaps his greatest accomplishment, Sheffield was in the last U.S. sled to capture gold at the World Championships back in 1959.
Oh, I know, it was really, it's like, you don't really believe it right away. You don't. And then all of a sudden, reality sets in and you did win. It's amazing.
Years ago, athletes around the U.S. didn't have much interest in bobsledding. The U.S. team was short on cash, and more sliders from the Adirondacks were getting a chance to compete.
It was tough because they were thrown into world competition. So pretty hard to go from a backyard kid in Keene to a world competitor because Europeans were dead serious. I mean, they went at bobsledding with a vengeance.
And even more so than today, sliders risked their lives every time they went down the track.
Tracks are way safer than they were before. There was no lifts on the curves. If you made a mistake, you went out in the trees. And we used to lose at least 1 or 2 guys a year.
This is the sled that will try to end that gold medal drought. Todd Hayes is the driver, joined by Bill Schuffenhauer from Salt Lake City, Randy Jones and Garrett Hines, both from Atlanta.
Well, all they can do is hope to put a perfect heat in and hope that somehow the German juggernaut Andre Lange makes a mistake. But Hayes last year finished behind Lange. There's the Russians at the bottom. They don't care what happens. They've got a bronze medal. And the USA didn't have a very good start time in the last heat. 5 seconds. and that gave up a lot of time to Longa, so they want to improve on that 5-second start. This time, 4:96. And you heard the crowd up there. A lot of people up here cheering him on. And who gets in the sled here first? Looks like Hayes is down quicker than the Russian driver, but the Americans a huge lead, 84 lead. Take a look at Hayes' helmet. It's got aerodynamic shape to it.
0.5 seconds.
The guys behind him are just sitting in aerodynamic positions, feeling their way down. And the Bodine sled, with Hayes behind the controls, has to do the rest, increasing his lead almost a full second.
With this huge lead, can he just let it all hang out and go after Longa?
I think he didn't change anything. 92 hundredths, he lost a couple hundredths back there. I think he realizes he's got at least a silver medal in the bank if he comes down here safely. He's got a 35 hundredths deficit to Longa, and that's a lot in bobsledding. And crosses the line, 93 hundredths lead, silver medal for USA 1.
For Randy Jones, that's his third World Championship medal. He won a bronze in the four-man at the 93 Worlds and a bronze again in 97. Now he moves up a color and gets a silver.
Garrett Hines also with them. Hines and Jones have both said they're going to retire after this competition. What a way to go out for those two fantastic athletes.
Hines qualified his statement. He said he retires 2 or 3 times a year, so we'll wait and see, but certainly that's what he's been saying.
And Hayes goes right to the chart. Find out his times, puts it into his mental computer.
It has been an amazing stretch for Todd Hayes. Olympic silver last year, silver at the Worlds this year at least. We are stating it like it's a formality. Something could happen here, but Andre Longa with a very comfortable lead coming into this fourth and final run. Longa joined in the sled by Rene Hoppe, Kevin Kuska, and Karsten Embach.
Look at the way Longa stands there. He's possessed. Look at this. Look at him. Nothing phases this guy. I've seen a lot of people come down the tracks of the sport over the years, and I've been impressed with him since the first time I saw him in Calgary in December of '98. It was his first World Cup event. He won it straight out. And he's won 3 straight events and about to win his 4th. Only a major mistake here, somebody falling out of the sled or crashing down below, has prevented him from winning this gold medal.
Not even 30 years old, and he could be a 2-time world champion and an Olympic gold medalist.
He won this event in 2000. He won this event last year. So 2 of the last 3 years, he's trying to make it 3 out of 4. It got a skid there. 31 hundredths lead. He doesn't have the same speed as Hayes.
Losing a little bit of time, but is it enough for the Americans to get on top?
Still 31. That means he stopped the bleeding. Next clock's probably going to be 35 or 36. That's the way this guy is in the bottom part of the track. He gets through this chicane. Look at that, 37. He's straight through the chicane. No one comes through that part of the track like he has last weekend and this weekend. This is the best pilot in the world, no doubt in my mind.
Basically a victory lap from here for Germany 1.
Wow. Cruised away from the rest of the field.
The best run in the final heat, and he just extends the lead that he already had. High fives all around in the finish area.
He's had a pretty good 3 weeks. Won the last 2 events in Calgary. Won last weekend. Won this weekend. Good way to finish up.
Within the sport of bobsled, this is as significant as Olympic gold. He seems unfazed, John.
A lot of relief. Long season. It's over. These guys are great friends, all 4 of them. You have to be.
Here's a look at the final results. Longa wins the gold, Hayes the silver, and the surprising Russian Zubkov takes the bronze. And a great result this weekend for American Stephen Holcomb, a top 10 finish for the 22-year-old.
Well, they got a hold of the Martineau Trophy. If you win it 4 times in a row, you get to keep it. That's never happened. This trophy's been around since 1930. What the Stanley Cup is to hockey, this is to bobsledding. And now, this German pilot, here's Billy Fisk, he won it in 1930. And now Andre Longa has captured it 3 of the last 4 years. 2 more years, he wins
Todd,
it.
Maybe a little disappointed last week. Silver medal, you happy?
Absolutely, yeah. We guys came out, pushed as hard as they could. The team performed extremely well. The Germans weren't going to be beat today.
Okay. So, Andre, vier Läufe hintereinander gewonnen. Wer kann André Lange stoppen? Who can stop 4 races in a row? Who can stop André Lange?
Darüber denken wir jetzt nicht mehr nach. Wir gehen heute Abend in Zickzack, lassen die Korken knallen, machen Schädelfluten und dann